before we get started about this episode in particular, nothing in this episode should be understood, taken, or misconstrued as nutritional, dietary, or medical advice. For those things, you should consult your primary physician or a registered dietitian. That out of the way, welcome back to the Fit Human Endeavors podcast. Episode number 2, we're going to be talking about nutrition, simplifying some things here. So we're going to try to set a groundwork here for future episodes. We're not going to get into too deep in the weeds here about this stuff, but there are a few things that I want to lay out and establish now to try to help you understand things that we'll build on in future episodes. So before we get started, I am not a doctor. I am not a registered dietitian. I'm a certified personal trainer and a certified nutrition coach. Before you start any workout program, diet plan, you should honestly consult with your primary physician or a registered dietitian. And I say that because I believe in getting yearly physicals, regular blood work, because this day and age with the advancements and the availability that we have to these tools, it's kind of silly not to. It's like bringing your car to a mechanic, right? The mechanic has to check under the hood. He's got to see what the fluid levels look like, what the transmission look like to the engine. Same thing with your body. So you get the blood work panels done. You know what is regular for you. So now if something is out of the norm or something's wrong, your physician can kind of work with you a little bit better. I think it's vitally important to get those things done. And I encourage everybody that I work with to go to your primary doctor first, get a checkup before working out. So that doctor could say, hey, be careful with this. You should do this. You shouldn't do that. And I think there is a space for personal trainers in this healthcare continuum, being doctors, physical therapists, registered dietitians, personal trainers, so that if your doctor has concerns, he can reach out to your personal trainer and vice versa to help you. So I would encourage you to, if you are working with a personal trainer or a dietitian, introduce them to your trainer if you're comfortable with that, and have them start some conversations, because I think it's really important for you to have everyone be in contact in order to help you in the best way possible, because everybody has their own lane and everybody has their own expertise. So the more experts you have helping you, the better off you'll be. That out of the way, I want to talk about nutrition. So nutrition is something that could be a complicated topic, but it shouldn't be for the general user. So you don't want to overcomplicate an already confusing and sometimes misleading topic, especially on social media and the internet. You read and hear so many different things, and you have to weed through who's trying to sell you what. And what angle is somebody working here? Is this really truthful information? There's so much information out there, which just makes it even more confusing, and it shouldn't be. And there's 3 things that I'm probably going to beat up over the next 30 minutes. And it's consistency, balance, and moderation. Everything is consistent. You have to remain consistent in your diet and your exercise. You have to take everything in moderation, and then balance. If you keep these 3 words in mind, you're probably going to be okay. And we'll get more into that. But getting back to this misleading information, I encourage everyone to do your own research. And no, social media is not research, and YouTube is not research. There are great resources. They could be resources of information where now you take that information and you go back and further research those topics. And I'll give you some examples of things that I use. These are not paid advertisements. I have no affiliation with these 2 examples I'm going to give you, but they're just an example of what I use to research it on my own. And yes, I am very interested in this stuff and I completely nerd out on all of it, but you can still use these resources to further research what you may have heard somebody talking about. So one of them is examine.com. There is a free version and there's a paid version. I particularly use the paid version. I know it's $144 a year because I literally just renewed my membership. So what I like about examine.com is the extent of the research or extent of the information that they give you. So you could look up supplements, you could look up medications, diseases, whatever the case is, you can look it up and it'll give you deep. It goes as deep as you want to go with it, but it gives you actual studies and recites actual journals and tells you who conducted the study, how the study was conducted, the results of the study, the cliff notes of the study, and lays it out really nice. And again, this is just one example. There's many others. This is one example. This is one of probably 4 that I use. This is probably the most user-friendly one. And I say, and I'll say this over the next 30 minutes, consider the source of your information. Always consider the source of your information. And an example, so say you see something on social media that, I don't know, purple sweet potatoes make you lose 10 pounds in a week. So, and the person recites a study and says, hey, there's a study that's actually done on this, an actual study. So you're thinking, wow, that's pretty legit. I heard this guy on social media said there was a study that recited, that purple sweet potatoes help you lose weight. Great. So that's something you can come back, plug into examine.com, purple sweet potatoes. What comes up? The study that the guy's talking about that says purple sweet potatoes will help you lose weight. The only problem is the Purple Sweet Potato Farmers of America sponsored the study, paid for the study, and are cherry picking the information from the study that this guy now on social media put out. So you get the point. That's just an example of considering the source of your information and cross-referencing what you hear out there, because there's a lot of people out there selling snake oil and trying to sell you a lot of things. So just be aware. And then on the exercise side of things, I belong to the National Strength and Conditioning Association, and they put out a nice journal, the Journal of Strength and Conditioning Research. Similar type of thing to examine.com, except this is just strictly exercise, where they study certain exercise effects on certain populations, athletes, non-athletes, and they go deep dive into, again, they tell you what the study is, who sponsors it, how it's conducted, and the results of it, cliff notes and everything. It's a really nice journal, really nice study if that's your thing. Again, somewhere to just further research what you see or heard on social media. So when that guy on social media says, he's 50 years old and he works out 4 days a week and he does a 5x5 workout and eats 700 grams of protein a day and he's jacked out of his mind. What he's not telling you is he's on absorbent amounts of testosterone replacement therapy. So he's not telling you that, but what he is telling you is that he eats X amount of protein and he works out 5x5 and that's all you got to do. None of this stuff, and I should say right up front, nothing in nutrition or exercise is one size fits all. Nothing. It's all individualized. So that's why it's hard to take cookie cutter workouts and apply them to yourself. Take something offline, start doing it. It might not work for you. So none of this stuff is one size fits all. None of this stuff is cookie cutter. But anyway, researching, considering your source of the information, these are just examples of things that I'm comfortable with and how I do it and how I cross-reference things that I don't know or that I come across. Very good sources. Now, nutrition doesn't need to be complicated, and there's a couple things that I want to talk about to kind of lay some groundwork and simplify some terms that you may have heard or might hear going forward. We're going to talk about total daily energy expenditure and the 4 components of it underneath that. And then we're going to just talk briefly about macronutrients. And in order to simplify this nutrition space, the one thing that I do, and I keep it simple, is I live a 90-10, 85-15 rule. So if you ever heard that before, 90% of the time, I'm eating really well and exercising and doing my thing, my staples, 10,000 steps a day. I get 100 plus ounces of water a day. I strength train 4 days a week. I get my sleep. I prioritize my sleep. I get certain macronutrients in. These are just daily things. And I do that 90% of the time, 9 times out of 10. There's that one time out of 10 that I have pizza and a soda because I like pizza and a soda. It makes me happy. I consider myself a pizza connoisseur. Some would say snob. I prefer connoisseur. And I really like pizza. So guess what? When I want pizza, I get pizza. It's no sweat. It's no big deal. I'm not going to die if I have 2 slices of pizza and a soda. So we'll talk more about moderation and more about balance and things like that coming up. But so if I just live by this 90-10, 85-15 sometimes, I'm probably going to be okay because that allows me to remain consistent. That allows me to have things in moderation. And more importantly, that allows me to have balance. And what I don't like or what I do not subscribe to and never have is diets. Anything that says diet or challenge or 21-day challenge, 30-day challenge, 75-day this, 90-day that, I'm not interested. It's not, most times it is not sustainable. It's probably not good for you. And what does that really, so some people say, oh, it's a challenge and I like a challenge. I like a challenge too. If you want to challenge yourself, train for an Ironman triathlon, train for a half marathon. If you really want to challenge yourself, or make it a more a challenge that you can do with friends or family. You want to challenge yourself? Challenge your friends and family to see who can walk 10,000 steps every day for the month of April. Let's do that as a challenge. Let's have a daily challenge. Everybody take a picture of your Fitbit or your smartwatch at the end of the day and you post it up, and everybody, let's see who could get the most out of 30 days, who could hit 10,000 steps every day. That's a healthy, balanced, very helpful challenge. So you want to challenge yourself in that way. To have to work out 2, 3 times a day, completely restrict one class of food or not do something and just go crazy, go full tilt, it's probably not a good idea. Like I said, it's not sustainable, it's not fun, and it's not something that you're going to continue to do. So why waste your time doing it? Why not just be consistent all the time instead of going full tilt for 21 days, 75 days, 90 days? Why waste your time with that? Use your time and your energy and your focus in a little more balanced way, and you'll see better results in the long term. Because again, this whole thing, nutrition, exercise, is not a sprint. So to me, those diets, those challenges, those are sprints. This is not sprints. This is all marathon. It took you a long time to put that weight on. It's going to take equally amount of time to take it off. So this is marathon we're talking. We're not talking about sprinting. And I don't like and don't subscribe to the diets and the challenges and things like that. And not to go off on a tangent on that. I just don't see much value in those things. And I've never really seen anybody benefit from any of those things. So we'll talk a little bit more about that when we wrap up. But consistency is king. Consistency is king in exercise and nutrition. Point blank, period. I'll beat that up. You have to be consistent. And consistent doesn't mean you are a rock star Monday through Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, you go off the rails. That's not consistent. Consistent is eating well, getting your steps in, getting your exercise in, having, and that being said, I don't believe in, just like I don't believe in diets and all these challenges stuff, like cheat meal things. Like there shouldn't be a cheat meal. It's just when you feel like having something, you have it. And I think about it like this, which makes it easier for me anyway, and remain consistent. Think of it like a bank account. I make deposits in my bank account in order to make a withdrawal. Same concept. I'm going to make little deposits every day. So for breakfast, I'm going to have 2 eggs on sourdough toast with a half an avocado and a handful of blackberries, blueberries, and strawberries. So I got my healthy fats, I got my brain fuel, I got my protein for muscle fuel, I got my carbs for energy, I got those berries and all those benefits that they bring. Great deposit, right? And then I'm going to follow that up with a strength training and another deposit. For lunch, I'm going to have 5 ounces of organic sliced turkey with a handful of spinach on a high fiber wrap with an apple and 5 Brazil nuts. Great meal, right? Proteins, fats, carbs, fruit. Great. Another deposit. For dinner, I'm going to have 93.7 lean ground turkey with a half a cup of rice, some peas and carrots, and one serving of something like a Primal Kitchen buffalo sauce, which is like an avocado-based sauce. Really good. Calorically dense, though, because of the avocado base. That's okay. Healthy fats. I'm going to mix all that up in a bowl, and I'm going to have that all together. So I'm going to have my healthy fats, my proteins, my carbs, my vegetables. Good to go, right? So now I have all these deposits made, all these little deposits, and I'm do that throughout the week. And now Friday comes and the family wants to go out for pizza. Cool. We're going out for pizza. And I'm going to make a withdrawal because having that pizza and soda is not going to be a deposit, obviously. So I'm going to make a withdrawal. No sweat. It's not the end of the world. It's not a cheat meal. It's just a withdrawal. I made deposits all week. I got my workouts in. I got my strength training. I got my 10,000 steps in. I'm drinking my water. I'm prioritizing my sleep. I'm good. So now when I want to have that pizza, I make that small withdrawal. No big deal. Now I can make a reasonable withdrawal with 2 slices and a soda, or I can possibly overdraw my account with 4 slices, fries, and a soda. That might be a stretch, right? It's all balanced. It's all moderation. So if I'm going to have pizza, you can't go off the rails and have pizza, but you can have pizza. You're out somewhere and your family runs across a ice cream place, a great ice cream place. So you have ice cream. It's not the end of the world. You have the ice cream. You enjoy the ice cream. You enjoy the time with your family and your friends. And tomorrow you get back to work. No big deal, because 9 times out of 10, 85% of the time, you're going to eat well and you're going to do the right thing. The other 15, 10% of the time, you're going to enjoy your life. And as long as you're making those small deposits every day, being consistent every day, there's no problem with making a withdrawal here and there, as long as you are making those deposits. So we'll move on to calories. And I want to explain something called Total Daily Energy Expenditure, TDEE, and it's something that you might have heard or keep in the back of your mind. You might hear it in the future. So this is just, and I want to try to put into perspective for you, energy in, energy out. And I don't like calories in, calories out, because it's not as easy as that. But for simplicity purposes and for this just general baseline conversation we're having here, we'll just say energy in, energy out. So your total daily energy expenditure is going to be that big number, that number of calories, that energy that you're going to take in every day. It's important to kind of understand what that number is for yourself. And the best place to get that from, obviously, is a registered dietitian, because they're going to really be able to dial that in for you in a really precise, professional manner. There are calculators online that you can use. TDEE calculator.net, I think it's .net, is one of them. And they're all based off of like a series of formulas. So, and don't get wrapped around the axle about the actual formula. You might see Mifflin St. Jean, you might see Harris Benedict. They're all about the same. They use little nuanced calculations to figure things out. But in effect, these online calculators are going to do what I'm going to explain next. I just want to get not too deep into the weeds, but I just want to explain the underlying part of some of these calculators that you might see online and where they're kind of getting those numbers from. But in these calculators, you're going to enter your height, weight, age, and activity level. So these are important things, because if you're a 6'4" male who's 220 pounds, who's a bricklayer, you're going to require a lot of daily calories just to maintain your current body state than a woman who's 5'1", 145 pounds and works in an office 10 hours a day. Big difference. So that's why you need to enter in your age, weight, height, and your activity level. And that's, are you sedentary or are you highly active? It's usually a 1 through 5 scale. And then you hit calculate and it will spit out this general roundabout number that you should not live and die by. So in this TDEE, Total Daily Energy Expenditure, underneath inside of this is something called EAT, which is going to be your exercise activity thermogenesis, the energy your body requires to exercise. So when you exercise, you are using energy, and that's called your EAT. On the other side of that, guess what? You have something called your NEAT, non-exercise activity thermogenesis. This is everything else. This is walking around the grocery store, carrying groceries in the house, cutting your grass, making dinner, walking to and from work. It's everything that's not exercise. So EAT, exercise activity thermogenesis, non-exercise activity thermogenesis, NEAT, take up a portion of this total daily energy expenditure. Under that, you have TEF, thermic effect of food. And this is, you can go way down this rabbit hole, but this, I'm again just keeping it general. The energy your body needs to break down food. So, and not all macronutrients are broken down the same. Some, your body has to work a little harder. Your body has to work a little harder to break down a protein bond than it does fat. We're not going to go down the rabbit hole, but just understand that when you ingest food, your body needs energy to process that food. So that's another part of this overall number. The last part of this overall number, and the fourth part, is something called resting metabolic rate. You've probably heard of basal metabolic rate. It's the same thing for our purposes here. It's the same thing. They're not exactly the same, but for our purposes, we'll just use resting metabolic rate. And to say simply, it's just the energy your body needs to exist. The energy your body needs to breathe, circulate blood, process hormones. If you just sat on a couch all day, your body still requires energy for you to just exist. This is another number. This is the fourth number in this total daily energy expenditure. And there's other factors. This is not the exact science I'm explaining here. It's just want to explain what you might see in one of these calculators when you kind of generally come up with this number of your total daily energy expenditure. So that being said, hopefully it didn't go too far down a rabbit hole there or lose anyone. But the problem is with this stuff is, and talking about consistency, the problem we run into is when you take in more energy than you expend. So your body's really good, or sometimes I guess not good, at utilizing this energy. So you give your body all this energy and you ingest all this energy. Your body just stores it away for later or can't process it, so it stores it away as later as adipose tissue or body fat. That's where understanding what you take in and what you do is very important, right? So lack of exercise with a lot of energy coming in means more body weight, your body changes. So that's why I'm explaining this. Again, keeping it very, very general. And there's a general, widely accepted number. What is accepted is 500 calorie deficit every day, 7 days a week, totaling 3,500 calories for the week. So if you are in a 500 calorie deficit every day for the week, you should be in a 3,500 calorie deficit by Sunday, which in theory, you would lose 1 pound of body fat. That's what's required to lose 1 pound of body fat. Sounds consistent, right? 500 calories a day. Now, could it be 750 one day, 250 one day? Sure. As long as generally at the end of the week, you're 3,500 calorie deficit, then you're good. The problem is getting back to consistency, and the example of 4 days. So you're consistent. We'll keep it simple with 4 days. 500 calorie deficit Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So now you're in a 2,000 calorie deficit. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, you go off the rails, and let's just keep it simple. You're 500 calories over for those days. You were 2,000 under, you're 1,500 over. Now you're net 500 under. So now come Sunday night, you're 500 calorie deficit for the week, and you're trying to figure out why you can't lose weight. So that's why it's really good to use the bank account analogy and understand what these total daily energy expenditure looks like, and what you do or what you don't do every day and figure out kind of like what the changes that you need to make. Again, we're going to move on from this in other episodes. I just want to lay this basic groundwork for now. And now I just want to touch briefly on macronutrients. So your macronutrients, your carbohydrates, your fats, and your proteins. Understanding what they are and what they kind of equal with energy in mind. So 1 gram of protein is 4 calories. 1 gram of carbohydrates is 4 calories. 1 gram of fat is 9 calories. So when you look at a food label and you look at something like, just say macadamia nuts, 10 or 11 macadamia nuts is like 220 calories. So the majority of that is fat calories, healthy fat. So macadamia nuts are good for you. But should you eat 20 macadamia nuts? Probably not. That's 500 calories. So that's a lot of calories coming from fat. Granted, they're healthy fats, but it's still a lot of calories. Very calorically dense. So a calorie is not a calorie is not a calorie. And I'll use myself. This is just an example. Again, just to put it in perspective for you with numbers, and we'll use easy numbers. We'll say, I want to get 3,000 calories a day. How are those 3,000 calories broken down? So this might help you with when you sit down for a meal. What does your meal look like? What is it broken down as? And then what does it look like at the end of the day? I want to get 3,000 calories in. I want to prioritize protein because I'm a 206-pound male who is looking to maintain or gain muscle mass. So I'm going to prioritize protein, which is necessary for muscle repair and growth and maintenance. So I want to get 200 grams of protein at 4 calories per gram. So that's 800 calories. So out of that 3,000, 800 of that is going to be protein. I want to get 300 calories of carbohydrates because carbohydrates is not the enemy. I'm not going to restrict carbohydrates because not moving and not being consistent and not being balanced and not eating in moderation is the enemy, not carbs. So I'm going to get 300 grams of carbs because I want to fuel my body for exercise. Carbohydrates are necessary for my hormone maintenance and daily function. So I'm going to get 300 grams of carbohydrates at 4 calories per gram. Now I'm at 1,200 calories for my carbohydrates. So now I'm at 2,000 calories of that 3,000 calories I started with. I have 1,000 calories left. I'm going to divide that by 9 because every gram of fat is 9 calories. And now I'm looking at 111 grams of fat. So I got 200 grams of protein, 300 grams of carbs, 111 grams of fat. That's my 3,000 calories for the day. Again, this is a very, very general, simplified explanation of that. Again, I prioritize protein. So when I sit down to eat, do I have my proteins? What are they? Yes, I have a certain amount for this meal. Do I have my carbohydrates? Do I have my fats, my fruits, my vegetables, my water? Okay, good. So I build my plate that way. Again, that's me personally. And I'm just using a general example here going forward. And I don't want to beat up the carb thing too much, but just like I said, I don't like diets and challenges. I don't like any restrictive things. I don't believe in restricting any one thing because I think you cause an imbalance, right? So if I'm going to just say I'm going low carb, no carb, that's not good. And that's why I don't like the whole keto thing. And look, it works for some people and I get it. I personally don't like it. And I personally don't think that it's effective and it works. So carbs for me is not the enemy. So I don't restrict carbs. I'm not going to beat it up here too much on this episode anyway. So having said that, things that help me kind of keep this stuff on track with my macros, and I am by no means am I weighing my food. I'm not weighing, 7 ounces of broccoli and 14 ounces of this, and I don't do that. But what I do use are tracking apps like MyFitnessPal or Lose It. I specifically use Lose It. I pay for the year. I have the paid version. I think it's $20 for the year. I'm not sponsored. I'm not affiliated in any way. MyFitnessPal is just as good. They both spit out great reports at the end of the week, at the end of the month. You could break it down and look at what you had, macros, the whole nine. Just like anything else, though, don't get too wrapped around the axle with this. I don't live and die by this app, but I use it as a tool, just like I use those research things as a tool. This is a tool that I use. And I've used it enough to know, so I can look and say, you know what, I know what about 10 ounces of 3.7 ground turkey looks like. I know what 5 ounces of sliced turkey looks like. I know what tuna fish looks like. I know what 8 ounces of ground beef looks like, because I've done it enough. So, but I still do use it to keep myself honest and keep myself on track, because I think it's important. But if you're just starting out in this and you want to know you build your plate, you build your breakfast, sit there and just kind of break it down and track it. And then now it'll give you in a nice chart, and you could customize it. You could make it or you can make it break out sugar, fiber, fat, saturated fat, unsaturated fat. You could get crazy. You could break down all the categories, or you could just keep it simple with your macros. I break it down personally because I pay attention to fiber, sugar. I like to keep my sugar low. I like to keep my fiber high. And I like to know what my proteins are, especially my proteins and my carbs. Those numbers are important, but you can customize this how you want. Just don't get too wrapped around the axle about it, and use it as a tool to just learn what the food you're eating, what does that look like? What does your normal lunch? And it's really interesting when you first start using it, because what you say you would eat normally, and be honest with the tracking. If you're going to track for a week, just say, be honest with everything that you're eating. You'd be surprised. Sometimes you get to the end of the week, you say, wow, my fat was, or the end of the day, geez, how did I come up with 150 grams of fat? And then now you get to look back through your day and you say, oh, when I walked past the pantry and I grabbed X, that right there was 20 grams of fat. And then I had those macadamia nuts with lunch, so that was another X amount. And then you see how it's added up. So now you can be a little more aware of these little things that you're putting in your mouth that make a difference. And they do add up, and they do make a difference. So it's good to use it as a tool. And because I'll say this with all of this stuff, and I caution you with this, there is a such thing as called orthorexia, right? So orthorexia, in very simple terms, is you're so afraid to not eat healthy. You don't want to eat something that's not healthy. So we're talking seed oils, phytoestrogens, organic, non-organic, gluten, which in effect, sometimes if you're going to live your life and you're going to worry about every seed oil that you ingest, or I saw a video online where the guy said, I'm not eating vegetables because vegetables create a protective compound to the vegetable that when you eat it, it harms you and it could do bad things in your body. So you don't eat vegetables. I don't know if that's a good idea. I don't eat bushels of vegetables, but I eat a bright plate, and I eat vegetables, and I eat fruit, and organic, non-organic. Do I like non-organic? Not really, but am I going to get wrapped around the axle about it? Am I going to lose my mind about it? I can't eat something because it's not organic? No, because I'm going to have balance, and I'm going to eat everything in moderation anyway. So, and I get it, like gluten. I don't have a gluten allergy, and if you do, that's something completely different. But I don't have a gluten allergy, so if I see something gluten-free or it has gluten, am I going to go for the gluten-free? Sure, I don't think gluten's good for you, but I don't know. I'm not. Just be balanced with it and don't get too crazy with it, because you can, and you can run into problems. You can avoid complete classes of food, which is going to you're going to throw yourself out of balance. You might say, I'm not going to eat ground beef anymore because I heard that ground beef causes heart attacks. That's something you might want to talk to your primary physician about, or a registered dietitian, and say, hey, what's your take on this? Can I eat ground beef? Your doctor might turn around and say, yeah, you can eat ground beef, just in moderation. Don't eat 14 pounds of ground beef, which brings me back to not really liking things that are called diets, where they tell you to just do one thing. So I'm not going to eat just meat and lock out everything else. That's not very balanced, right? That's called an elimination diet. So I could turn around and say, yeah, ever since I'm eating meat, man, my skin cleared up and I feel great. Yeah, it's because you were probably allergic to something that you were eating. It's not because you were eating meat. It's because you eliminated the thing that you were allergic to. So anyway, not go off on a complete tangent on that, but that's why I don't like completely eliminating classes of things, because you're going to throw yourself out of balance. So I don't want to beat that up too much. But balance, consistency, and moderation are everything. If you stick to those three words, you think 90-10, 85-15, Think about your intake and your exercise as a bank account. Keep it simple. Keep it simple. It'll keep you on track. It'll keep you in balance. So we're going to end it here. We'll touch again on nutrition in a later episode. This is just the groundwork. Hopefully you got something out of this. Hopefully I didn't get too deep into the weeds or lose anybody. If I did, please let me know. If you have questions, let me know. And again, stay in touch with your primary physician, seriously, and get that blood work done, get that physical done. If you're looking for a real nice diet plan, get with a registered dietitian. They are a wealth of knowledge. I mean, they can really simplify your path forward. They really can. They are a wealth of knowledge. Get that stuff done. Get with those people. Get your trainer talking to your doctor talking to your nutritionist talking to your trainer, and keep that continuum going. You'll benefit from it. You'll be glad you did. Thanks again. If you could give me a thumbs up if you got something out of this, I'd appreciate it. If not, subscribe to the channel so you know when the next episode is coming out. And again, consistency, moderation, keep these things and balance, keep these things in mind. I'll catch you in the next one. Thanks for listening.